Chaz Kangas here with Go 95.3, and my guest at this time is one of the most identifiable faces, voices, and impacts in the entertainment industry. You know him as Sulu from Star Trek. You know him for this year's my favorite show this year, AMC's The Terror, and he's coming in this weekend for GalaxyCon here at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Ladies and gentlemen, the great George Takei. George?
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time you're going to be airing this.
Oh, I'll gladly take them both. So
good, just great.
Stellar.
We're here in New York, and it's a cloudy sky that I'm looking out at, threatening rain later in the day.
It's seldom good, although New York kind of has that beauty of the overcast with the skyscrapers. I lived in Harlem for about 11 years, and so
so you know the city.
Yep. Yeah, and just the November New York overcast has me, feeling, kind of pulling at the heartstrings a bit as things are getting ready for the holiday season out there. That moment right before
exactly that.
Yeah.
It's the announcement of the holidays nearing, both the joy and the pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the joy that comes once the pressure's over. I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota right now, so looking forward to.
Of course you would be, yeah. And we are coming to your place.
Yep. Yeah, and
tomorrow.
Yeah, for a wonderful weekend for the first ever Minneapolis GalaxyCon.
GalaxyCon. The Galaxy is at Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yep. It once in a while it happens. It happened when Prince was born, and then this should be another occasion. Oh, and probably when they premiered Mary Tyler Moore. But yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm looking really forward to meeting you in person, seeing you this coming weekend. And you've been doing these conventions for a while. What is your favorite part about doing these particular conventions?
Well, here it is now. Star Trek is 53 years old, and I'm even older than Star Trek. But we're still being invited to conventions. I've got a new book out called They Call Us Enemy. It's about my childhood. And we're on the New York Times bestseller list. All this wonderful bounty that I'm enjoying in this phase of my life is because of the fans. They have amplified my voice so that I could be on your radio station or talking on TV about issues and publishing a book about my childhood. So I go to these conventions to personally thank the fans for the gift that they've given me of the amplification of my voice by their support, the fact that I'm still selling books that land on the New York Times bestseller list, and to share something about my childhood imprisonment via that. The fans are the ones that made it all possible for me, and I think it's just good manners to, in person, thank the fans for the gift that they've given me. So I look forward to conventions and have a good time at them.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it's exciting having your new book, They Call Me Enemy, and I'm sure you'll be signing copies of that. And I'm sure plenty other pieces of memorabilia as well. So going to all these conventions, as you mentioned, with Star Trek now being 53 years old, what's the most memorable item a fan has asked you to sign?
Can we talk candidly on your radio station?
Absolutely.
Or just make allusions? I've signed various parts of a human body. Does that let your imagination go enough?
Absolutely. Now I'm seeing the full reaches of the Galaxy for GalaxyCon this weekend. So
yes, the Galaxy takes us everywhere, and into the various nooks and crannies of our galaxy.
Well, it's about the exploration and trekking forward into discovering these new areas. So, wow.
And we're about to give birth to another new series on television. It's called Picard. I think that's going to be the 7th of our spin-off children. Plus, we have 14 movies out, feature films, and I'm told that Quentin Tarantino is interested in directing another Star Trek feature film. So, there's a surprise around every corner of the block. There's some new wonderful thing happening.
That's tremendous. You can really see the impact, and they're truly immortal. They're going to, live forever, and just so many ways for, even younger audiences to get started and go deeper in them. It's really a franchise, and in a lot of ways, a way of life for so many.
That's the thing about fans. They proliferate like tribbles, and now we have, I think, one of the fans last weekend brought his great-grandchild to a Star Trek convention, and he was, of course, one of the original Star Trek fans back in the 1960s. I can pick them out right away, and it's his grandson that he brought as a youngster. He was carrying the kid. I say he was about 4 or 5 years old. But some parents are bringing their infants, a few months old, to these conventions. So their destiny is being set early on.
And the most literal use of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the next generation.
Yeah. Wonderful. So in addition to Star Trek, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because at these conventions, there's so many fandoms and there's so many people with their passions coming together. And from your voiceover work to your acting roles, you've had a part in so many. So I'm curious, very early on in your career, you did dubbing for Rodan and Godzilla Raids Again. What do you recall about doing English voiceover work for those films and those franchises?
Yeah, I started my career with the voice work because I'm of that generation that we call the radio generation, pre-television, and we got our entertainment via sound. Cisco Kid, the Green Hornet. I used to be absolutely transported listening to these stories, listening to just voices and sound effects. And I was just amazed how the combination of the human voice and the human imagination on the part of the listener can create a whole world without any special effects, without any set building or anything like that. That is another aspect of communication that we too often overlook. And so I have great respect for voice acting and certainly dubbing of films, particularly foreign films that we dub into English. They're very challenging, and the fact that we can make them sound so credible when they're in English, when they're actually speaking in a foreign language. It's a fascinating way of working.
Yeah, I'm sure with the levels of editing and the precision in the performance. It's remarkable.
Well, you say editing, but it's primarily when you're dubbing in the English dialogue to a foreign language film, it's the talent of the actor, not the editor.
Oh, gotcha. So you see the footage of it, and then it's on the actor then to match it up?
To match the lip movement and to breathe when the foreign language speaking actor breathes, and the catching the rhythm of the lip movement. And sometimes an actor might be speaking slowly. Actor on film might be speaking slowly and then suddenly speed up. And to capture all those nuances, it's not the editor that does it. It's we, the actors on the soundstage, that match the lip movement and pick up the cadence of the lip movements.
Wow, that should be heralded more, especially considering, being an actor and the choices an actor make. It's basically you having to make the choices another actor has made and then putting your own performance in there. That's amazing. And
not only the choices, but the words he's saying. Mm-hmm. It's the lip movement that we have to match, Right. So it's a singular art.
Wow. Moving into your more recent art, of course, with your new book, They Call Me Enemy, as well as this year you acted in AMC's The Terror, which I absolutely loved. And a few weeks back, I had Christopher Nauki Lee on my show to talk a bit about it. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And
he was in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so with your new book and dealing with the internment camps, and then now going and shooting a TV series that dealt with it. How was that experience filming in that particular subject matter?
Well, I first came onto the Terror Infamy as a consultant. The executive producer and creator of the series, who is a neighbor of mine, who happens to be a neighbor of mine in Los Angeles, called and said, "I'd like to come over and talk to you about a project I'm considering on the internment of Japanese Americans." And I said, "Sure, come on over." And we sat in our living room, and he told me about the project. And he said, we want to overlay a horror story. And I told him that the internment was terrifying enough. Just put yourself in the position. I mean, I was a child then, but my parents were in the middle of their lives, and suddenly, because of what happened in Pearl Harbor, because Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and we're Americans. My mother was born in Sacramento. My father was a San Franciscan. They met and married in Los Angeles, and that's where my brother and sister and I were born. And yet they called us, they saw us, categorize us as enemy aliens. We were neither. We were American citizens, and we were loyal American citizens who had nothing to do with Pearl Harbor. And so imagine yourself, soldiers carrying bayonets on their rifle, marching up to your home, pounding on your front door, and ordering you out at gunpoint. This in America, and being imprisoned behind barbed wire fences, tall sentry towers with machine guns pointed at us. And when I made the night runs from our barrack to the latrine, the searchlights followed me. I mean, that's intimidating. But and to my parents, that searchlight was invasive. It was degrading. It was dehumanizing. It was painful for them. But to 5-year-old me, I thought it was nice that they lit the way for me to pee. And so I tell that story in They Call Us Enemy from that perspective. But at the same time, I include, I introduce via this child's vantage point to the story of my parents who lost everything, who had everything taken from them, including freedom, and being imprisoned when they're innocent. 120,000 Japanese Americans were imprisoned. So anyway, so I told Wu, the creator of the series, the Terror Infamy, that the internment itself was harrowing enough, but you want to make it even more harrowing. And he said, "Yeah, the network likes us to juice it up a bit." So I came on board to give them consulting on the authenticity of the story and the rooting it in the reality of the Japanese-American experience. And so I came on board initially as a consultant, and then the producer says, "You're also an actor, aren't you?" And they cast me in the series as well. So that's how that came about. But that chapter of American history is one that is very much a part of my life. And we developed a Broadway musical on it, on that subject, which we did in 2015 on Broadway. We founded a museum called the Japanese-American National Museum. We're an affiliate of the Smithsonian in Los Angeles. And I go all around the country speaking at universities on that chapter of American history. So my involvement in the Terror Infamy was on 2 counts, as an actor and a consultant to make the story authentic.
Wow. And so working as a consultant on that and dealing with that subject matter, this chapter, this horrifying, ghastly chapter of American history that you experienced firsthand, and then dealing with that both in terms of, with the Terror Infamy as well as within your Broadway show. And then also being someone in the industry who at times, will occasionally see this, subject of American history brought up. Overall, like looking at it, when artists and perhaps like artists in the future are dealing with that particular topic of the Japanese internment camps. What do you...
Please, I want to correct you right there. The term Japanese internment camp has been used by the media from the time that I was a teenager. The proper English analysis of that sentence is a Japanese internment camp would be run by the government of Japan. We were Americans imprisoned by the United States government and imprisoned in the United States. That's an American concentration camp. So please, from now on, you are part of the media. If you can change that term that you use to Japanese-American internment camp, I think that was first started by the United States government in order to distance themselves from their role in the imprisonment of innocent people of Japanese ancestry, Americans of Japanese ancestry in American internment camps. So if you'll please use the term Japanese-American internment camp, not Japanese internment camps, because those would be run by Japan.
Absolutely. My apologies on that, sir. The incorrect term will never leave my lips again. The Japanese-American internment camps.
Thank you. It's been my mission in life to educate people on not only that chapter of American history, but on proper grammar.
and I absolutely appreciate that, and I'm happy to not make that mistake again.
Japanese-American internment camp, not Japanese internment camp.
Right. Japanese-American internment camps. As an artist, what do you think is, and also someone who experienced it, what do you think it is would make something a fair representation of it versus the tendency that the media will occasionally have to exploit such a history? And where do you see a certain line being on that, if there is one?
Well, particularly now, to know this history of American history is vitally important because we have not learned the lesson from 70 years ago. We are repeating it again and reaching a new low on our southern borders. When our family was imprisoned, I was a child, 5 years old. We were always together with our parents. No children was torn away. As a matter of fact, the government was so hysterical about the whole thing. They raided orphanages. Can you believe orphanages? Little children, some infants and some biracial in orphanages, and they pulled them out and put them in one of the 10 internment camps. They made an orphanage. And what threat to the national security are parentless babies and little children? And that's how hysterical it was. But now, today, we've reached a new low because we're tearing children away from their parents and putting these children in filthy cages with human waste in them. I mean, it's really disgusting. I visited the border at Brownsville, and they're overcrowded. A cage made for 20 houses about 50 or 60 children, and they're literally sleeping on top of each other. We are reaching a new low, and that's why it's so important for us to know past history so that we don't repeat it again. And the reason I'm coming out with my book and all these other projects about the Japanese-American internment is because I want people to know that chapter of history so that we don't have things like what's happening right now recurring as it is today.
Wow. Well, I definitely appreciate you doing it, and I'm looking very forward to reading the book and seeing you this weekend. So, one final question for you, being on a lighter note, being it's GalaxyCon, and there's so many things of your career that's going to be celebrated with so many people. Do you have any particular work over the course of your career that you're really proud of that you wish was more well-known amongst your fan base?
Well, I did a play in New York back in the 70s called The Year of the Dragon. It's nothing like that movie that was done called The Year of the Dragon. And after the run, we filmed it for television on Theater in America series. And, of course, because it's a theater piece, as a theater piece, it was seen only here in New York. But the television series, which was shown on public television, Theater in America series, we reached more audiences, but still it's a public TV airing. So that's a show that I'm very proud of, and where I was able to use some of my own life experience in my work, and it remains today a little viewed TV videotape. It can be found in libraries, I think. But Year of the Dragon is that project.
Well, I'll do my best to track that down, and when I post this online, have a place for listeners to locate it. So I'll do my...
Good. Thank you.
Hey, happy to do my part. Well, once again, Mr. Takei, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Looking so forward to seeing you at GalaxyCon this weekend. And also, since the news just broke on it, congratulations on being honored at the International Festival of Arts and Ideas and on your forthcoming Caribbean cruise.
Well, thank you very much. You are on top of new developments.
I try to be. Mr. Takei, thank you once again so much, and have a wonderful weekend. And when you arrive, let me be the first to welcome you to the Twin Cities.
Look forward to meeting you. Take care.
Thanks. Thank you. Have a great day.
Live long and prosper.